We discussed a lot about quality and physical requirements that you have to think of as products, but let's talk about products and culture. I ended the last video in the same on the same slide. I want and how I'm so fascinated by Japanese Kit Kats and Oreo cookies from China. But let's look at a few things where you want to understand that there are many facets of products that are influenced by culture beyond just consumer tastes. Food, of course, is one of the most personalized, culturally adaptive products out there. Food really, how we perceive food and how other cultures perceive food is numerable. One of my favorite examples of this is naan, and we like quick and easy foods, things that are packaged and easier to make. Like cakes are easy to make because it's pre-mixed ingredients versus making it from scratch. So if you get a cake mix, it's easy to make and less likely to mess up. But with the same concept of naan in India, a local common brand that we're aware of, I can't remember who it was, I think it was Kraft or something, try to bring in non premix like cake mix to Indian culture, and it was not welcomed easily. It was seen as an attack on the home life. And so when they went to look into it, they were wondering, why do they not want the convenience of being able to make naan faster and easier? And the result was they found that mothers were seen as an affront to their quality of making food at home and homemade, and they didn't want that perception. So the education or rebranding, particularly, I don't like the word education so much as rebranding or new perceptions that the product is a convenience and of quality that aids in the ability of extending the mother's home life had to be readapted. And so that later came back better, but the initial perception or reception was not very good. Also, you have to look at the different consumer appliances available. For example, you can't just think you can make cake, for example, in Japan. There's not a lot of ovens there. So one brand created a cake mix that can be made in a rice cooker. So that level of innovation and creativity added in people's ability to want to make something at home in Japan. Another thing you want to consider in product and culture is, for example, design of your products. You're going to learn about reverse engineering. If I want a dishwasher, I can't take an American dishwasher and pack it into an apartment in Japan or India or Hong Kong, right? You're going to have to adapt your product. And so reverse engineering starts with the consumer in mind. And you look at, see if it's viable. One of the greatest companies that started reverse engineering by starting with the consumer was Canon portable or home printers. And Canon is famous for their cheaper product because they understood that the product could not pass $1,000 and it had to be cheaper and it'd be smaller and yada yada to get to a point where a product was something they could put on a store shelf. And today you see a number of different types of home printers now. So the first step to innovation is understanding the newness of the product. Canon and its printer was brand new to the market. Nobody ever had home printers. Versus naan. People were making naan at home, but they weren't making it the way you thought they were making. So you have to understand that something that's completely novel or something that's semi-novel, or is it a cultural challenge, or will it be something that people have to just learn completely new? So you have to understand the perceptions of those products. Now, you get the newcomer trendsetter opportunity if you succeed in markets where the product has never been there before. A blue ocean strategy, so to speak, where there's no competitors really around you. That, if you succeed, you gain great market share and first rights to others from competing against you. But the disadvantage is it's very expensive and very costly. But if you come in as a second comer, somebody who's newer to the market, but there's already other competitors, then you don't have to worry about consumer adaptation or diffusion of innovation as much because there are other products you're competing against. So keep that in mind. If you're a first person or a first time company, a trendsetter, and you have the money for it, then by all means, it is risky to understand those limitations compared to a company that's coming in with other competitors in existence. I like this one, innovation of toilets, or just innovation of toilets in general. I think there's another side on it. The high tech of Japanese toilets, they talk about the bidets. I find that fascinating. Seated seat warmers on the toilet. When I was in Japan, I found that helpful during the winter, surprisingly. But the Dutch came up with this one, and I saw this myself. If you ever see this, if you look closely, the Dutch created a little fly there sticker for the urinals to help reduce messes and maintenance costs of their urinals in Europe. And it was a big success. For some reason, gentlemen are aiming more correctly when they're using these toilets compared to when they're not there or not present. So this fly, tiny little fly, when I first saw it, I wondered what it was. And to later find out it was one of those successful innovations in reducing biohazardous waste missing or not hitting the toilet was a huge deal. So quite funny and weird at the same time, but a very successful marketing gimmick. We want to look at diffusion of innovation. I like to look at this graph. We look at those who accept it. For example, with Apple products, we have our trendsetters, innovators, early adopters. Innovators and trendsetters are those who really like the latest and the best of something. Or they're also people who are very adaptive to different products and different concepts more easily. Or maybe they're industry knowledgeable. Say, for example, you're introducing a whole new game console or a new game itself. You have those who are on top of it and play games all the time and are professional in it, career professional in it, and they actually accept these products better. So those are your innovators and trendsetters. And then the general population goes into early adopters, those who have the money and disposable income to buy game consoles and not necessarily adapt as easily, but just like to buy new things. Then you have early majority, a bigger majority of the population who has disposable income and just want to be cool, even if they weren't the coolest at that moment. And then you have late majority and laggards, like myself. So, yeah, that depends on the product. How much variation can you fit yourself into? This is very good to consider with tech products that have much more novelty, even in your home market. So, rates of acceptance or resistance can be predicted. We look at characteristics of innovation, and we want to look at relative advantage, like perceived marginal value, compatibility, behaviors, norms, values, and so forth. Complexity, we're looking at the degree of product complexity. For example, my grandparents could handle a microwave, a brand new microwave, very easily compared to the generations before them. But for them to look at a cell phone is much more challenging. So you look at product adaptability and complexity from that lens. Trialability, how much people are willing to risk the trial of something, and that goes into your brand awareness, your brand trust. People trusted Apple. They came up with the iPod. People loved the iPod, and they were willing to buy into the iPhone much more readily. Those early adapters and innovators were much more willing to risk the costs. And observability, which benefits can the product be observed? So you want to look at these criterions when you're looking at the product in a foreign market, even in your own. So. I'm not going to go into that either. Now, you want to be aware of conflicting opinions on culture's role in innovation. This goes back into my biggest concern I always have when thinking of other markets is my ethnocentric bias. That if it's done here, then it could just be done there. Or why can't they just do that? We do it. This very arrogant, very short-sighted mindset. And you want to look at the totality of your product and service in a different market and see really in every part, what do I need to take in consideration culturally? We're a very individualistic culture. Well, if you're dealing with a very collective culture, you don't want to do something where all of a sudden the whole group doesn't like and you're kind of stuck out of it. So, for example, corporate culture. I like this one. Okay, why not talk about it? Different countries have different corporate cultures. Some emphasize training more than others. Some have hierarchies that are very strict, as you would see in certain Asian cultures. Some are more egalitarian, as the Scandinavian cultures. So when it comes to services like training, you have to see adaptability and adoptability to training in culture. So I do agree with that. Products are multidimensional. I agree with that. Even basic products, the sum of all of its features, the bundle of its satisfactions. Utility. If you do not know the word utility, you need to know it now. Utility is how people believe or are satisfied by a product, whether it's how they acquired it or if they got a better deal because of it, like your pricing. All that matters in how a person perceives value from the product. So the product component model is looking at the product from its core. So when you want to look at a product, start with there first. The product platform, its design, its functional features. So how does it look? Is it cool? Is it people like it? Is it designed right for where it's going to be placed? Like, will it take up a lot of space like a dishwasher, an American dishwasher in Japan or Mumbai? Design, functional features. Can it run on the electricity or the water flow capabilities of the place? Can it run on electric and on gas, depending? Packaging, can I ship it safely? How do I ship it? The packaging, will it have certain labels on it? How it looks, branding-wise. Apple likes to show simplicity. Reason why is that brand is valuable, as simple and easy to use. You could open up and use 10 features on an Apple product faster than you could use on an Samsung product. That was what they bragged about in the mid-2000s. And then you would look at support services. There are warranties and product liabilities and defects. These are minimum requirements. It's not something you sell as an extra. You will have to meet minimum standards of other countries. To do that, you also want to, if you want to have any differentiation, I love certain products because I love their customer support. I love knowing if I have a problem, I have a place I can call. Installation is a huge component. IKEA focuses very much on their installation requirements because they don't make the product. You have to make it there at home, and installation matters. Before I go into other things, marketing of services in a nutshell, services are intangible. They're used on site. They're inseparable and perishable. Airplane tickets, for example. Once that plane takes off, you can't feel that plane anymore. That's it. It's very perishable. Once that day passes, that hotel room is empty. You didn't make money. It's also heterogeneous, meaning individually produced and unique in most cases. Haircuts, for example. Consulting services. Deloitte and PricewaterhouseCoopers operates locally. All the big consulting firms operate locally and speak the local language. So it's intangible, it's perishable, it's inseparable from creation to consumption, and it needs to be unique and adapted to the market. Do not think that your services can be homogeneously given to different markets, especially in services. So keep that in mind.